It was a perfect summer afternoon in New York. The sun streamed through the tall windows of the elegant reception hall, making the crystal chandeliers sparkle like 1,000 tiny stars. Guests laughed, clinked glasses, and whispered compliments about how beautiful everything looked. Every detail had been meticulously planned. The flowers, the music, the decorations, and the cake. David Clark, 32, tall, handsome, and nervous, couldn't believe this day was finally here. He adjusted his navy blue tuxedo for the 100th time, checking the reflection of himself in the polished marble floor. Beside him, his bride, Lauren Bennett, 30, radiant in a flowing ivory gown, smiled at him like nothing else in the world mattered. From the outside, this wedding seemed flawless, a celebration of love everyone envied. But as David waited near the towering, 4-tiered wedding cake, his best friend Josh leaned in, whispering, "Hey man, that cake's huge, you sure nothing weird is inside?" David laughed. "We double-checked everything. The baker's family-owned, nothing strange, just frosting and layers of chocolate and vanilla. It's perfect." Yet as the first slice was cut and the cake revealed its inner layers, David noticed something odd, something written in delicate, precise lettering inside the cake itself. The frosting between the layers spelled out words he never expected to see. His heart skipped. It wasn't a sweet message like "Congrats, David and Lauren." It was a message he recognized instantly. His ex-girlfriend, Amelia's handwriting, unmistakable from the letters she used to send him in college. "David, remember me. You can't forget what you did." David froze. The knife hovered over the cake and a cold wave of panic washed over him. Everyone cheered, oblivious, while inside his mind raced. How could she even know about the wedding? Who would put a message like this inside their cake? And most importantly, why now? Lauren, noticing his sudden change, leaned in. "David, are you okay?" He forced a smile, trying to mask the storm brewing inside him. But deep down, he knew this cake wasn't just a dessert. It was a warning. And Amelia, she had found a way to make herself part of his wedding day, whether he liked it or not. Make sure to like and subscribe our channel to support our journey. David's hands trembled as he set the knife down. The room was alive with laughter, clinking glasses, and soft music, but he felt as if he were standing in a vacuum. The message in the cake wasn't just a prank. It was a jolt from the past, one he hadn't prepared for, and Amelia had somehow made sure it reached him on his wedding day. Lauren, sensing something was wrong, touched his arm. "David, you're shaking. What's happening?" He wanted to speak, to tell her it was nothing, that it was some silly mistake, but the words stuck in his throat. How could he explain that an ex, a woman who had disappeared from his life 5 years ago, had somehow infiltrated their celebration and left a threat, or worse, a reminder, inside the cake? His best man, Josh, noticed the tension. "David, dude, you're pale, what is it?" David's eyes scanned the crowd. Among the smiling faces of family and friends, he spotted someone he didn't expect. A familiar figure standing by the dessert table, her expression unreadable, holding a champagne glass delicately in her fingers. Amelia. She hadn't changed much. Long dark hair that framed her sharp features. Eyes that once seemed warm, now cold and calculating. And she was smirking. That small, infuriating smirk that made David's chest tighten. Lauren's eyes followed his, and when she saw Amelia, her hand instinctively gripped David's arm. Who is that?" David swallowed hard. "Someone from my past, just ignore her." But ignoring Amelia wasn't an option. She had made her presence known in the most shocking, public way possible. The message in the cake was more than words. It was a claim. She had inserted herself into this day, and David's carefully planned wedding was now a stage for her drama. He tried to focus on Lauren, to smile and take her hand, but the knot in his chest tightened. Memories flooded back. Late-night arguments, promises broken, and the way Amelia had vanished without explanation. And now she was here, standing in the shadows of his happiest day, a ghost from a chapter he had thought closed. Amelia raised her glass in a mock toast, and the crowd clapped, assuming she was just another guest celebrating. David's stomach churned. He could see the subtle tension in Lauren's eyes, a flicker of fear mixed with confusion. Josh leaned closer, whispering, "We can't just let her ruin this. You need to confront her, man." David nodded, but inside, a storm raged. Confronting Amelia meant opening old wounds in front of hundreds of people. Not confronting her could mean letting her control the narrative, letting her message hang over the day like a dark cloud. And as the band struck up a familiar tune for their first dance, David knew the moment of decision had arrived. Every eye was on him and Lauren. Every heartbeat echoed in his ears. Amelia's message had done more than shock him. It had set a ticking clock. Something had to happen, and soon, or the day that was supposed to be perfect would spiral into chaos. He took a deep breath, trying to focus, to push the fear and anger aside. For Lauren, for the wedding, but the shadow of Amelia, her message inside the cake, and the secrets it hinted at were not going away anytime soon. This was no longer just a wedding. It was a test of courage, love, and the ability to face the past before it destroyed the future. David couldn't ignore it any longer. The band was playing soft jazz. The guests were swirling in their dances, and Lauren's smile, so radiant, so trusting, was a stark contrast to the storm raging in his chest. He needed answers. He needed Amelia gone from this day, but he also needed to understand why she had done this. "Josh," David muttered under his breath, "I have to talk to her now." Josh raised an eyebrow but nodded, sensing there was no turning back. "Just be careful, man." David weaved through the crowd, careful not to alarm anyone. Amelia was standing by the dessert table, swirling her champagne, her eyes locked on him with a mix of challenge and nostalgia. The closer he got, the more memories surfaced. The way she had laughed at his jokes, the nights they stayed up talking about dreams, the bitter fights over trust, and the final, devastating goodbye that had left him questioning everything about love. "Amelia," he said, his voice steady but low enough that no one else could hear. She tilted her head, her smirk widening. "David, didn't expect me to make it to your big day, did you?" He swallowed, trying to keep his composure. Why the message in the cake? Why now?" Her eyes softened for a moment, then hardened again. "Because you need to remember, you left without closure, without explanation, and I needed you to feel the same shock I felt that day." David's chest tightened. Part of him wanted to yell, to shove her, to demand she leave immediately. But another part, a quieter, heavier part, felt the weight of guilt and regret. Was this really all her doing, or was he finally confronting the mistakes he had made 5 years ago? "Amelia, this isn't the way. You can't." "Can't what?" she interrupted, her voice sharp but trembling slightly. "Show up, send a message, make you face the past. David, you broke me back then. And now you're going to see what it feels like when the past comes back to haunt you." David's fingers curled into fists. The guests were laughing nearby, oblivious to the storm brewing just feet away. He looked at the cake again, the words still visible, sweet frosting hiding a bitter reminder. He couldn't let this ruin Lauren's day. "Listen to me," he said, voice firmer now. "This is her day too, not mine, not yours. Whatever this is, we deal with it later. Not here, not today." Amelia's eyes flickered, a mixture of anger, sadness, and something else, something he couldn't quite read, before she finally nodded almost imperceptibly. "Fine, but this isn't over." David exhaled, relief and fear mingling together. He turned back to Lauren, who had followed him discreetly, worry etched across her face. "Everything okay?" she whispered. David smiled weakly, masking the turmoil inside. "Yeah, everything's fine now. Let's just enjoy the day." But as they returned to the center of the hall, the music, the laughter, and the smiles around them felt like fragile glass. David knew Amelia's message in the cake wasn't just a warning. It was the opening act of a drama that had only just begun. And somewhere in the crowd, Amelia's eyes followed them, silent, calculating, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. The reception hall was alive with music, laughter, and the clinking of glasses, but David felt trapped in a bubble of unease. Every time he glanced at the cake, the words Amelia had written seemed to whisper from within. "You can't forget what you did." Lauren noticed his distant expression again. "David, are you sure you're okay?" He forced a smile, nodding. "I'm fine, just a lot on my mind, that's all." But he wasn't fine. Amelia's appearance had reopened wounds he thought were long healed, and her message inside the cake had thrown his entire carefully controlled world into chaos. He wanted to shield Lauren, to protect the day they had dreamed of together, but he couldn't escape the gnawing feeling that this was only the beginning. Later, when the crowd gathered for the cake-cutting ceremony, David excused himself. He needed air. Outside, the cool evening breeze brushed against his face, a stark contrast to the storm inside him. And then there she was, Amelia, standing by the marble fountain in the garden, her expression unreadable. "Why, Amelia?" he asked, voice low and tense. "Why did you do this?" She met his gaze, her eyes glinting in the soft light of the garden lamps. "Because I needed you to feel what I felt. You moved on, got engaged, and now married. But the past, the things we left unsaid, they don't just disappear, David." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration and pain rising. "This isn't fair to me, to Lauren. This is her day. How could you even think?" "I know it's not fair," Amelia interrupted, stepping closer. "But neither was leaving. Neither was disappearing without a word. Do you remember the night you walked out of my apartment saying you couldn't do this anymore?" David's chest tightened. He remembered every detail, the anger, the heartbreak, the helplessness. I thought it was best. I didn't know how to fix it. I thought time would heal everything." Amelia shook her head slowly, her voice trembling. "Time doesn't heal everything, David. Some things fester, grow in the shadows, and demand to be acknowledged. Today you can't ignore it." David looked at her, a mix of anger, guilt, and confusion churning inside him. He knew she was right, but confronting this now, at his wedding with Lauren watching, felt like walking a tightrope over fire. I need to protect Lauren," he said finally. "I can't let this ruin her day." "I won't." Amelia's eyes softened, almost imperceptibly. "Then keep her close, keep her trust. But know this, one day the truth always comes out. And hiding it, pretending it didn't happen, it only makes it worse." David exhaled, a shaky mix of relief and dread. He had bought a temporary calm, but the storm of unresolved emotions wasn't gone. It was just waiting for the right moment to erupt. He turned back toward the hall, his hand brushing Lauren as she approached, her eyes filled with concern. "Everything's okay now," he said, forcing a confident smile. But as he led her back inside, he knew Amelia's message in the cake was only the first layer of secrets, and peeling back the next ones could shatter everything. And somewhere across the garden, Amelia watched him walk away, a quiet, knowing smile playing on her lips, her plan unfolding, her presence a constant shadow over the wedding they had worked so hard to make perfect. The reception hall had returned to its festive atmosphere, laughter echoing off the high ceilings, chandeliers sparkling like captured starlight. Guests mingled, sipping champagne and congratulating the newlyweds. But David couldn't shake the weight of Amelia's message. Every smile, every toast, every cheer felt like a background soundtrack to the storm in his chest. Lauren took his hand, her eyes searching his. "David, please enjoy this day with me. Don't let anything ruin it." He wanted to believe her, wanted to embrace the moment of joy he had dreamed about for months. But just as he nodded, a hush fell over the hall. All eyes turned toward the podium. It was Amelia, standing with a microphone in hand. David froze, a cold wave washing over him. How had she even gotten access to this part of the reception? His heart pounded as she raised the microphone. The murmurs of curiosity rippled through the crowd. "Hello, everyone," Amelia began, her voice smooth, calm, and dripping with an unsettling charm. "I hope you don't mind if I share a few words about love, memory, and truth." David's stomach sank. Lauren's hand gripped his, trembling slightly. "Who is she?" she whispered, eyes wide. David didn't answer. He could feel all eyes on him now, anticipation and confusion buzzing in the room like static electricity. Amelia smiled at him, sweet, knowing, and impossible to ignore. "David and I," she continued, her gaze piercing him, "we shared a chapter once. A chapter that ended abruptly, without closure, without explanation. And sometimes," she glanced at the wedding cake behind her, the words still fresh in David's memory, "the past finds a way to speak, even in the most unexpected places." Gasps filled the room. Guests exchanged puzzled looks. Lauren's face paled, her grip on David tightening. "Amelia," David began, but she held up a hand, silencing him. "No, David, let me finish. I'm not here to ruin a day. I'm here to remind everyone that love, mistakes, and honesty are intertwined. Secrets have a way of coming out whether we like it or not. And some of those secrets," she said, her eyes flashing at him, "cannot be buried inside layers of cake or polite smiles." The room was tense, electric, every person holding their breath. David felt trapped under Amelia's gaze, every word slicing through the festive air like a blade. He glanced at Lauren, her expression a mix of fear and hurt, and realized this moment, this toast, was now the turning point. He stammered, trying to regain control. This is my wedding day, Lauren and I. Amelia's smile softened slightly, almost wistful. I know, and I won't take it further today. But remember, David, the past doesn't vanish just because we want it to. It waits patient until we face it. Without another word, she handed the microphone back to a stunned waiter and retreated gracefully, leaving whispers and tension in her wake. David exhaled, relief and dread mingling in his chest. He had survived the public confrontation, but Amelia's shadow now stretched over the rest of the day. Lauren turned to him, tears glistening in her eyes. David, what just happened? He pulled her into a protective hug. Nothing that can't be handled later. Today is ours, I promise. But as they rejoined their guests, David couldn't shake the feeling that Amelia's message, the message hidden in the cake, her carefully timed toast, was only the beginning. The secrets she carried weren't finished with him yet, and he knew deep down that every moment of peace they enjoyed now was borrowed. And somewhere in the crowd, Amelia's eyes followed them, silent, calculating, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. Like and subscribe for more stories. The band struck up a slow, romantic song, and the guests formed a circle around the newlyweds for their first dance. The chandeliers above cast golden reflections on the polished floor, creating a perfect, almost cinematic backdrop. Yet for David, every twirl of Lauren's gown and every smile she gave him felt fragile, like a beautiful glass sculpture that could shatter at any moment. He tried to focus on Lauren, on the warmth of her hand in his, on the moment they had worked so hard to create. But Amelia's words, her gaze, and the cake's hidden message loomed in his mind like a storm cloud. He could feel tension coiling in his chest, tightening with every step. Lauren noticed his unease. David, what's wrong? Are you thinking about her? David forced a smile, brushing his lips near hers. Not anymore, just nerves. It's our first dance. Let's enjoy it. But as he spoke, a server approached, carrying a tray of champagne. He froze for a heartbeat when he saw the note tucked beneath the tray, a folded piece of paper with the familiar handwriting of Amelia. Lauren followed his gaze. David, what is it? He unfolded it slowly, trying to remain composed. The words inside made his stomach drop. I know your secret. Tonight everyone will see who you really are. A chill ran down his spine. Amelia's interference was no longer subtle. She wasn't just reminding him of the past. She was threatening to expose something he had buried deep, something he had never told Lauren. Panic flared in his chest. What could she mean? He couldn't think. He couldn't react too obviously. And if anyone noticed the sudden tension between him and Lauren, the entire wedding could spiral into disaster. Lauren, sensing something urgent, whispered, David, we need to step away. Now. He nodded, tightly gripping her hand, leading her through the crowd, past curious glances and murmurs. They slipped into a quiet corridor behind the hall, the muffled music and laughter falling away. Tell me what's happening, Lauren demanded, her voice trembling slightly. Is this Amelia? David nodded, breath shallow. Yes, she's threatening to reveal something. I don't know what exactly, but it's serious. I need to fix this before it reaches anyone else. Lauren's eyes widened. But your wedding, our day, is happening now. You can't just leave the hall and… I know, he interrupted, holding her close. I don't want to ruin this for you, but if I don't act fast, it could destroy everything. David's mind raced, remembering every interaction with Amelia over the years, the arguments, the misunderstandings, the unresolved secrets. And now, she had found a way to insert herself into the most important day of his life. He took a deep breath, focusing. There was only one choice. He would confront her, face whatever truth she intended to reveal, and protect Lauren. But as he turned toward the exit, he realized with a sinking heart that Amelia might have planned for this moment exactly, forcing him to make a choice in front of hundreds of guests, each step a tightrope over emotional disaster. The corridor ahead was silent, the flickering light casting long shadows. David knew that what awaited him could change everything. The wedding, his relationship with Lauren, and his life. And in the shadows, unseen but ever present, Amelia's plan was unfolding exactly as she intended. David led Lauren through the quiet corridors of the venue, the muffled laughter and music from the reception fading behind them. The air outside was cool, scented with summer blooms from the garden. But despite the beauty, every step he took felt weighted, as if the shadows themselves were watching. "David, tell me exactly what's happening," Lauren urged, her voice tight with worry. He exhaled slowly, trying to steady his racing heart. "It's Amelia. She left a note in the cake, and now she's threatening to reveal something. I don't know exactly what, but it's serious. And I need to deal with it before it ruins today." Lauren's eyes filled with tears. "But this is our wedding, our day. You can't let her, how could she even get in here, let alone sabotage?" David interrupted gently, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I know, but she's clever. She planned this. And if I don't confront her now, I can't guarantee she won't make it public in front of everyone." They reached the garden, where the soft glow of string lights hung from trees, creating a romantic, almost cinematic atmosphere. And there she was, Amelia, leaning against the fountain, calm, composed, her dark eyes locked on David the moment he stepped into the moonlight. "You came," she said softly, a smile playing on her lips, though it didn't reach her eyes. David swallowed hard. "Why, Amelia? Why today? Why my wedding?" Her gaze was steady, unwavering. "Because some truths cannot wait. You moved on, got engaged, and now married. And yet there are things you've hidden, things you promised to forget but never did. I'm just making sure you face them." Lauren stepped closer, protective. "David, who is she? What does she mean by that?" Amelia's eyes flicked to Lauren for the first time, assessing, calculating. "I don't intend to ruin your day, Lauren, really. But David, there are parts of his past he thought were buried. Secrets he never told you." Lauren's hand instinctively clutched David's arm. "Secrets? What secrets?" David shook his head. "It's complicated, I'll explain later. But you have to trust me. She's trying to manipulate this moment." Amelia sighed, her voice softer, almost regretful. "I only want him to remember, to acknowledge, to stop hiding. One day the truth comes out whether he's ready or not. And sometimes the hardest truths come in moments we think are happiest." David stepped closer, resolve hardening in his chest. "I don't know what you think you're doing, Amelia, but you're not ruining today. Not for Lauren, not for anyone." Amelia tilted her head, a mixture of challenge and nostalgia in her expression. "We'll see, David. This is just the beginning. Secrets have a way of surfacing, and cake is just the first act." As she turned and disappeared back toward the reception hall, David felt a surge of protectiveness for Lauren and a growing dread. He knew Amelia's interference wasn't over, and whatever she had planned next could shatter everything they had built. Lauren gripped his hand tighter. "David, I'm scared. What if she—" He pulled her close, pressing a reassuring kiss to her temple. "Nothing will ruin today, I promise. I'll handle her, no matter what." But deep down, David knew this promise was fragile. Amelia had started a chain reaction, and once secrets began to surface, there was no turning back. Tonight, what should have been perfect would be tested in ways he had never imagined. The moonlight shimmered on the fountain, casting long shadows across the garden. And somewhere inside, Amelia's plan silently advanced, patient, precise, and ready to strike again at the perfect moment. Back inside the reception hall, the atmosphere had shifted. Guests sensed the tension that hadn't been there before. Whispers floated across tables as David and Lauren returned, trying to smile, trying to rejoin the celebration. But the words on David's mind kept repeating, Amelia's promise of revelations. The next event on the schedule was the cake cutting, and everyone assumed it would be sweet, fun, and ceremonial. But David couldn't focus on frosting or tears. He knew that Amelia had already disrupted the first layer with her cryptic message. What if she had more planned? Lauren squeezed his hand. "David, breathe. Everything going to be fine, just smile." He nodded, though unease knotted his stomach. As the cake knife hovered over the pristine layers, a sudden gasp swept through the room. All eyes turned to the cake, and David's heart sank. There, on the second layer, a new message was revealed, this time more direct, more personal. Frosting had been carefully peeled back in a hidden design, spelling out, "David, everyone deserves the truth. Remember what happened 5 years ago." Gasps echoed throughout the hall. Lauren's eyes widened in shock. Guests whispered frantically, cameras flashing. David's jaw tightened. Amelia had escalated. This wasn't just a reminder anymore, it was a public accusation, a trap set perfectly in front of everyone. Lauren turned to him, voice trembling. "David, what is this?" He swallowed, the weight of the moment pressing on him. "It's complicated," he murmured, "but I swear nothing she's saying is true in the way it seems." Amelia, standing near the dessert table, smiled subtly, her eyes gleaming with the satisfaction of control. David felt a mix of fury and helplessness. She had orchestrated the perfect emotional attack, making him look guilty in front of hundreds of friends and family. "I need to fix this," David muttered under his breath. He scanned the room for Josh, who subtly gave him a nod, ready to intervene if things went further. Taking a deep breath, David stepped onto the small platform next to the cake. "Everyone, please," he said, voice firm, cutting through the murmurs. "This day is about Lauren and me. It's about love, family, and celebration. Nothing else matters today. Any other messages, any past mistakes will not overshadow what's happening right now." A tense silence followed. Amelia's eyes narrowed slightly, then softened, almost imperceptibly, like a predator hiding her next move. Lauren stepped forward, standing beside him, her hand in his. "He's right," she said, voice stronger than before. "This day is about love, nothing else, and we're going to enjoy it. So please, let's celebrate together." The guests hesitated, then slowly applauded, though the whispers continued. Amelia took a subtle step back, watching silently, calculating. David knew this wasn't over. The cake had revealed only part of the truth. Amelia still held the power to expose more, to unearth secrets that could change everything. As David and Lauren resumed their dance, trying to reclaim their moment, he realized that Amelia's interference was more than a personal vendetta. It was a lesson, one he had to face, confront, and survive, not just for himself but for Lauren. And in the shadows of the reception hall, Amelia's eyes followed every move, patient, meticulous, and ready to strike again when the moment was perfect. The night had deepened, the reception lights casting a warm glow across the hall. Guests were laughing again, trying to immerse themselves in the celebration, but the tension lingered like a shadow. David could feel it pressing against him every time he looked at Lauren. She was radiant, but the worry in her eyes told him she sensed Amelia's presence had changed the energy of the day. Then the unthinkable happened. A server accidentally dropped a tray near the dessert table, scattering glasses and creating a minor commotion. Amelia used the distraction. She quietly approached the microphone again, and before anyone could react, her calm voice carried across the hall. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her tone sweet yet razor-sharp. "Sometimes the sweetest days hide the deepest secrets, and today I think it's time one of those secrets is shared." David froze. Lauren's hand gripped his tightly, her eyes wide with panic. "David," Amelia continued, her eyes locking on him, "you promised honesty. Years ago you made mistakes. You hurt people you cared about. And today, I think everyone deserves to know a part of that truth before we celebrate." Gasps rippled through the room, cameras clicked, whispers spread like wildfire. David felt his stomach drop. He knew Amelia wasn't lying about the events. He had made mistakes, but how much she planned to reveal tonight in front of their families and friends, he didn't know. "Amelia," David said, stepping forward, trying to regain control, "this is a wedding. This isn't the time." "Exactly," she interrupted, voice rising slightly, commanding attention. "Which is why I made it subtle at first. But now, subtlety isn't enough. People need to see, to understand, and to learn that even love has shadows." Lauren's tears brimmed, and some guests began murmuring nervously. David pulled her close, shielding her from view as best he could, feeling the weight of Amelia's intentions pressing down like a storm ready to break. He knew he had to act fast. He raised his voice, projecting calm and authority. "Everyone, please, let's take a breath. This is not the moment to air personal grievances. Today is about Lauren and me, nothing else. Any past mistakes I've made are my responsibility, but I will not let them overshadow this celebration." The hall was silent, the tension so thick it felt like a physical weight. Amelia's gaze softened momentarily, a flicker of something unreadable passing through her eyes, regret, nostalgia, or maybe satisfaction that she had achieved her goal, shaking David to the core. Then unexpectedly, she smiled gently, almost wistfully. "Very well for now. But remember, David, truth has a way of surfacing whether we like it or not." She stepped back, merging into the crowd, leaving David and Lauren standing in the center of the hall, hearts racing. Lauren clung to him, whispering, "Are we going to be okay?" David held her tight, forcing a reassuring smile. "Yes, today is ours. Whatever comes next, we face it together." But deep inside, he knew the storm wasn't over. Amelia's interventions, the cake, the notes, the whispers, it was all part of a larger plan, one that would continue to test their love, their trust, and their ability to protect each other from the shadows of the past. And somewhere, watching quietly from the periphery, Amelia's eyes gleamed with a calm certainty. The final act was coming. The hall was quiet now, the energy heavy with anticipation. Guests held their breath, sensing something monumental about to unfold. David stood beside Lauren, her hand firmly in his, both of them trembling slightly, hearts pounding in unison. Amelia appeared one last time, stepping forward with a calm, almost serene expression. "This is it," she said softly, her voice carrying over the room. "The truth cannot remain hidden any longer. But it's up to you, David. How you face it will define everything." David took a deep breath. The weight of past mistakes, the cake, the notes, and Amelia's public warnings pressed on him. But he knew one thing. Lauren deserved honesty, courage, and protection from shadows that weren't hers. He turned to the audience, his voice steady and strong. "Everyone here knows me as a man about to start a new life. But I will not pretend the past didn't exist. I've made mistakes, yes, but I've learned, I've grown, and I stand here ready to honor my commitments and love. Today, this day, belongs to Lauren and me, and we choose to celebrate that love above all else." The room was silent for a heartbeat before a ripple of applause erupted. Lauren's tears flowed freely, relief and joy mixing as she embraced David. Amelia watched, a soft smile on her lips, finally at peace knowing her message had been heard, but no harm had been done. As the couple returned to the cake, Amelia stepped back, her role complete. David lifted the knife with Lauren, cutting the cake together, symbolizing not just their union, but the triumph of trust, love, and courage over secrets and fear. Lauren laughed, leaning into him. "We did it. We survived the impossible today." David smiled, brushing a tear from her cheek. "Together, always together." The crowd cheered, cameras flashing, the music swelling again, and the night returned to celebration, full of life, love, and new beginnings. As they waved to their guests, David turned slightly to the camera. "Because this story, like all unforgettable moments, deserved to be shared. Thank you for watching our journey unfold," he said warmly. "If you loved this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more dramatic, emotional storytelling that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Every like and share helps bring these stories to life." Lauren squeezed his hand, smiling. "Here, to love, honesty, and new beginnings." And as the night carried on, the lesson lingered. The past may knock, secrets may whisper, but true love, courage, and trust will always find a way to prevail.